When the sun has set on a Friday night, bringing peace into your home, families will gather all around singing Shabbat Shalom. Everybody sing Shalom, 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 Shalom. A gift from God, so put a He had no form or beauty that we should even look at him. Rejected and despised, our faces turned away. But by his bruises we were healed. And he was wounded because of our sin.
By pint. He'd give that dog that pint of ice cream, and in about 2 or 3 gulps it'd be gone, and we're going, how does he not get brain freeze?
We're live.
We're live.
Oh,
Y'all ready to get started?
We are.
Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom.
shalom.
The way that's going, maybe we should go Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, we don't want to rush into anything.
I take it that's Miriam.
I don't know. I think it's just two old ladies gossiping.
Oh,
I think that's what. Okay. Let's get started with the blessing. Blessed are you,
Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us in his commandments, and commanded us to engross ourselves in the words of the Torah.
and in Hebrew.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
I'm going to do it a little bit different today. I've got this one thing about baptism. This was in First Fruits of Zion. I thought it was kind of neat, so I'm going to read it. The New Testament tells several stories about the people being baptized, but the stories do not spell out the details of how the baptism was accomplished. The apostolic writers thought that the method and procedures of baptism was so well known that they felt no compulsion to record any of the details of the ritual. Because the apostles were all Jewish, they considered baptism to be a basic part of daily life, which required no description. Baptism was originally a Levitical purification rite. Most purification ceremonies, such as the purification after leprosy, require immersion in a mikvah. The Brit New Testament expresses immersion into the mikvah with the term baptizo, the word from which we derive the English term baptism. Leviticus 15 prescribes baptism as the mode of purification for a variety of ritual contaminations. Baptism means different things to different forms of Christianity. Disagreements about the mode and meaning of baptism can be blamed in part on the New Testament's scanty descriptions of the ritual. The apostles say very little about the mode, never explaining exactly how a person is to be baptized. They say a bit more about the symbolism, but they leave most of that as if it had already taken for granted. A person needs to be ritually pure before he or she can enter the sanctuary or eat of the sacrifices. At a minimum, purification from ritual uncleanness required a full body immersion into the living water. That's Mayim Haim. Water collected from a natural source like a spring, a river, or rainwater, but not drawn from a cistern or well. A pool of living water is called a mikvah. A person undergoing immersion descends into the mikvah, river or lake or ocean or whatever the case may be. The person immerses himself or herself by wading into deep chest water and bending the knees to completely submerge himself or herself. The dunking is repeated 2 times for a total of 3 consecutive dunks. A person who immersed himself in this manner washed away his ritual uncleanness. all worshipers going up to the temple underwent immersion before entering the holy place. Archaeology has unearthed the remains of many apostolic-era immersion facilities near the entrance to the temple. These are the same immersion baths that Yeshua and his disciples used as they went up to the temple when in Jerusalem. Archaeologists have found remains of apostolic-era immersion baths all over the land of Israel, and they consider the presence of a mikveh in an excavation as a key evidence of a Jewish population. All of this indicates the baptism was not a Christian invention or even an apostolic innovation. From the days of Moses, the Jews regularly practiced ritual immersion. Anyone who became ritually unclean needed to undergo a baptism before he or she could enter the temple or eat from the sacrifices. The priest immersed every day. After a woman completed her monthly cycle, she needed to immerse herself before she could rejoin her husband. Some pious Pharisees went beyond the letter of the law and attempted to maintain a constant state of ritual purity, which necessitated regular daily immersion. The immersion ritual symbolizes death and resurrection. When a proselyte converts to Judaism to become legally Jewish, he passes through an immersion in the mikveh. His legal identity as a Gentile dies in the water of the mikveh, and the proselyte emerges from the mikveh, reborn as a Jew. Likewise, John the Immerser employed immersion as a physical token of repentance. The penitent entering the water of the Jordan died to sin and emerged from the water, reborn to a life of repentance and righteousness. Paul attached similar symbolism to the immersion in Messiah. Do you not know that all of us have been baptized into Messiah, Yeshua, have been baptized into his death? Our old self was crucified with him in order that our body of sin might be done away with, so that we would no longer be slaves to sin. For he who has died is freed from sin. Anyway, I've always been curious about baptism and its, what do you call it, the way it's used or thought of. You know, there's some churches that you're not saved unless you're baptized the way they want you to be baptized.
Welcome to works-based salvation.
Right. All I'm saying is that what is baptized? What is a baptism? What is a mikvah?
You think Yeshua went into the mikvah? I mean, I know he never sinned, but do you think he was ever ritually unclean?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm supposing he would be.
When he touched a leper, or, you know, there are certain things that would make him ritually
Right.
unclean, so those would,
Being ritually unclean is not a sin.
The woman touching his garment.
Yeah, power went out of him.
I don't know if that
Yeah.
would make him ritually unclean.
Yeah, he touched a woman during that time.
But he didn't touch her, she touched his ZZ.
Yeah, well, that's him. I
I
don't know.
think it,
Splitting hairs, you
yeah,
think?
I think it, I
Okay.
don't know,
Well,
could be.
today, we're just gonna read all the Torah portions, and then I've got, just some commentary I'm gonna do at the end, and we can discuss it then. But, I don't know if y'all know, Tazria-Metzora, it is just about, being unclean, and the purification rites for that, process. So, if anybody wants to read some, they certainly may. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the people of Israel, saying, if a woman conceives and bears a male child, then she shall be unclean 7 days, as at the time of her menstruation. She shall be unclean, and on the 8th day the flesh of his foreskin shall be circumcised. Then she shall continue for 33 days in the blood of her purifying. She shall not touch anything holy, nor come into the sanctuary until the days of her purifying are completed. But if she bears a female child, then she shall be unclean 2 weeks, and as in her menstruation, she shall continue in the blood of her purifying for 66 days. And when the days of her purifying are completed, whether for a son or for a daughter, she shall bring to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting a lamb a year old for a burnt offering, and a pigeon for a turtle, or a turtle dove for a sin offering, and he shall offer it before the Lord and make atonement for her. Then she shall be clean from the flow of her blood. This is the law of her who bears a child, either male or female. And if she cannot afford a lamb, then she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, one for a burnt offering and the other for a sin offering. And the priest shall make atonement for her, and she shall be clean. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when a person has on the skin of his body a swelling or an eruption or a spot, and it turns into a case of leprous disease on the skin of his body, then he shall be brought to Aaron the priest, or to one of his sons the priest, and the priest shall examine the diseased area on the skin of his body, and if the hair in the diseased area has turned white, and the disease appears to be deeper than the skin of his body, it is a case of leprous disease. When the priest has examined him, he shall pronounce him unclean. But if the spot is white in the skin of his body, and appears no deeper than the skin, and the hair in it has not turned white, the priest shall shut up the diseased person for 7 days, and the priest shall examine him on the 7th day, and if in his eyes the disease is checked, and the disease has not spread in the skin, then the priest shall shut him up for another 7 days, and the priest shall examine him again on the 7th day, and if the diseased area has faded and the disease has not spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean. It is only an eruption, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the eruption spreads in the skin, after he has shown himself to the priest for his cleansing, he shall appear again before the priest, and the priest shall look, and if the eruption has spread in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a leprous disease. When a man is afflicted with a leprous disease, he shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall look, and if there is white swelling in the skin, and it has turned the hair white, and there is raw flesh in the swelling, it is a chronic leprous disease in the skin of his body, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. He shall not shut him up, for he is unclean. And if the leprous disease breaks out in the skin, so that the leprous disease covers the skin of his diseased person from head to foot, so as far as the priest can see, then the priest shall look, and if the leprous disease has covered his body, he shall pronounce him clean of the disease. It has all turned white, and he is clean. But when raw flesh appears on him, he shall be unclean. And if the priest shall examine the raw flesh and pronounce him unclean, raw flesh is unclean, for it is a leprous disease. But if the raw flesh recovers and turns white again, then he shall come to the priest, and the priest shall examine him, and if the disease has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce the diseased person clean. He is clean. If there is in the skin of one's body a boil, and it heals, and in the place of the boil there comes a white swelling or a reddish white spot, then he shall be shown to the priest. And the priest shall look, and if it appears deeper than the skin, and it has hair has turned white, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a case of a leprous disease that is broken out in the boil. If the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in it, and it is not deeper than the skin, but is faded, then the priest shall shut him up 7 days. And if it spreads in the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a disease. But if the spot remains in one place and does not spread, it is a scar of the boil, and the priest shall pronounce him clean. Someone want to read this one?
Or when the body has a burn on its skin, and the raw flesh of the burn becomes a spot, reddish, white, or white, the priest shall examine it, and the hair in the spot is turned white, and appears deeper than the skin, then it is a leprous disease. It has broken out of the burn, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a case of leprous disease. But if the priest examines it, and there is no white hair in the spot, and it is no deeper than the skin, but is faded, the priest shall shut him up 7 days, and the priest shall examine him the 7th day, and if the spreading of the skin, and the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is a case of leprous disease. But if the spot remains in one place and does not spread in the skin, but has faded, it is swelling from the burn, the priest shall pronounce him unclean, for it is a scar of the burn. When a man or a woman has a disease on the head or on the beard, the priest shall examine the disease, and if it appears deeper than the skin, the hair in it is yellow and thin, then the priest shall pronounce him unclean. It is an itch, a leprous disease of the head or the beard. And if the priest examines the itching disease, and it appears no deeper than the skin, there is no black hair in it, then the priest shall shut up the person with the itching disease for 7 days. And on the 7th day the priest shall examine the disease. If the itch is not spread, there is in it no yellow hair, and the itch appears to be no deeper than the skin, then he shall shave himself, but the itch he shall not shave, and the priest shall shut up the person with the itching disease for another 7 days. And if on the 7th day the priest shall examine the itch, and if the itch has not spread in the skin, and it appears to be no deeper than the skin, then the priest shall pronounce him clean, and he shall wash his clothes and be clean. But if the itch spreads in the skin after his cleansing, then the priest shall examine him, and if the itch has spread in the spread in the skin, the priest need not seek for the yellow hair; he is unclean. But if in his eyes the itch is unchanged and black hair is grown in it, the itch is healed and he is clean, and the priest shall pronounce him clean.
When a man or a woman has spots on the skin of the body, white spots, the priest shall look, and if the spot on the skin of the body are of a dull white, it is leukoderma that has broken out in the skin, he is clean. If a man's hair falls out from his head, he is bald, he is clean. And if a man's hair falls out from his forehead, he has baldness of the forehead, he is clean. But if there is on the bald head or the bald forehead a reddish white diseased area, it is a leprous disease breaking out on his bald head or his bald forehead. Then the priest shall examine him, and if the disease swelling is reddish white on his bald head or on his bald forehead, like the appearance of leprous disease in the skin of the body, he is a leprous man, he is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. His disease is on his head. The leprous person who has the disease shall wear torn clothes and let the hair of his head hang loose, and he shall cover his upper lip and cry out, unclean, unclean. He shall remain unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He shall live alone. His dwelling shall be outside the camp. When there is a case of leprous disease in a garment, whether a woolen or a linen garment, in warp or wool, of linen or wool, or in the skin, or in anything made of skin, if the disease is greenish or reddish in the garment, or if the skin, or in the warp or the wool, or in any article made of skin, it is a case of leprous disease, and it shall be shown to the priest. And the priest shall examine the disease and shut up that which has the disease for 7 days. Then he shall examine the disease on the 7th day. If the disease has spread in the garment, in the warp or woof, or in the skin, whatever be the use of the skin, the disease is a persistent leprous disease, it is unclean. And he shall burn the garment, or the warp or woof, the wool, or the linen, or any article made of skin that is diseased. For it is a persistent leprous disease, it shall be burned in the fire. And if the priest examines, and the disease has not spread in the garment, in the warp, or the woof, or any article made of skin, then the priest shall command that they wash the thing in which the disease is, which is the disease, and he shall shut it up for another 7 days. And the priest shall examine the diseased thing after it has been washed, and if the appearance of the diseased area has not changed, though the disease has not spread, it is unclean. You shall burn it in fire, whether the rot is on the back or on the front. But if the priest examines, and if the diseased area has faded after it has been washed, he shall tear it out of the garment, or the skin, or the warp or wool. Then If it appears again in the garment, in the warp or the woof, or in the article made of skin, it is spreading. You shall burn with fire whatever has the disease. But the garment, or the warp or woof, or any article made of skin from which the disease departs, when you have washed it, shall then be washed a second time and be clean. This is the law of a case of leprous disease in a garment of wool or linen, either in the warp or woof, or in any article made of skin, to determine whether it is clean or unclean. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, This shall be the law of the leprous person for the day of his cleansing. He shall be brought to the priest, and the priest shall go out of the camp, and the priest shall look. Then if the case of leprous disease is healed in the leprous person, the priest shall command them to take for him who is to be cleansed 2 live clean birds, and cedar wood, and scarlet yarn, and hyssop. And the priest shall command them to kill one of the birds in an earthenware vessel over fresh water. He shall take the live bird with the cedar wood, and the scarlet yarn, and the hyssop, and dip them in the live bird in the blood of the bird that was killed over the fresh water. And he shall sprinkle it 7 times on him who is to be cleansed of the leprous disease. Then he shall pronounce him clean, and shall let the living bird go into the open field. And he who is to be cleansed shall wash his clothes, and shave off all the hair, and bathe himself in water, and he shall be clean. And after that he may come into the camp, but live outside his tent 7 days. And on the 7th day he shall shave off all the hair from his head, his beard, and his eyebrows. He shall shave off all his hair, and then he shall wash his clothes, and bathe his body in water, and he shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take 2 male lambs without blemish, and 1 ewe lamb a year old without blemish, and a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil, and 1 log of oil. And the priest who cleanses him shall set the man who is to be cleansed and these things before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the priest shall take 1 of the male lambs and offer it as for a guilt offering, along with the log of oil, and wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb in the place where they kill the sin offering, and the burnt offering in the place of the sanctuary. For the guilt offering, like the sin offering, belongs to the priest. It is most holy. The priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the priest shall put it on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the right thumb of the right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest shall take some of the log of oil, and pour it into the palm of his own left hand, and dip his right finger in the oil that is in the left hand, and sprinkle some of the oil with his fingers 7 times before the Lord. And some of the oil that remains in his hand the priest shall put on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, on the big toe of his right foot, on the top of the blood of the guilt offering. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed. Then the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest shall offer the sin offering to make atonement for him, is to be cleansed from his uncleanness. And afterward he shall kill the burnt offering, and the priest shall offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. Thus the priest shall make atonement for him, and he shall be cleansed. Do I have another volunteer?
I'll do. But if he is poor and cannot afford so much, then he shall take 1 male lamb for a guilt offering to be waved, to make atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil for a grain offering, and a log of oil. Also 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, whichever he can afford. The one shall be a sin offering, and the other a burnt offering. And on the 8th day he shall bring them for his cleansing to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. And the priest shall take the lamb of the guilt offering and the log of oil, and the priest shall wave them for a wave offering before the Lord. And he shall kill the lamb of the guilt offering. And the priest shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. And the priest shall pour some of the oil into the palm of his own left hand, and shall sprinkle with his right finger some of the oil that is in his left hand 7 times before the Lord. And the priest shall put some of the oil that is in his hand on the lobe of the right ear of him who is to be cleansed, and on the thumb of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot, in the place where the blood of the guilt offering was put. And the rest of the oil that is in the priest's hand, he shall put on the head of him who is to be cleansed, to make atonement for him before the Lord. And he shall offer of the turtle doves or the pigeons, whichever he can afford, one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, along with a grain offering. And the priest shall make atonement before the Lord for him who is being cleansed. This is the law for him in whom there is a case of leprous disease, who cannot afford the offerings for his cleansing.
The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, when you come into the land of Canaan, which I give you for a possession, and I put a case of leprous disease in a house in the land of your possession, then he who owns the house shall come and tell the priest, there seems to me to be some case of disease in my house. Then the priest shall command that they empty the house before the priest goes in to examine the disease, lest all that is in the house be declared unclean. And afterward the priest shall go in to see the house, and he shall examine the disease, and if the disease is in the walls of the house with greenish or reddish spots, and if it appears to be deeper than the surface, then the priest shall go out of the house to the door of the house and shut up the house 7 days. And the priest shall come again on the 7th day and look. And if the disease has spread in the walls of the house, then the priest shall command that they take out the stones in which the disease and throw them into an unclean place outside the city. And he shall have the inside of the house scraped all around, and the plaster that they scrape off they shall pour out in an unclean place outside the city. Then they shall take other stones and put them in the place of those stones, and he shall take other plaster and plaster the house. If the disease breaks out again in the house after he has taken out the stones and scraped the house and plastered it, then the priest shall go and look, and if the disease has spread in the house, it is a persistent leprous disease in the house, it is unclean. And he shall break down the house, its stones and timber, and all the plaster of the house, and he shall carry them out of the city to an unclean place. Moreover, whoever enters the house while it is shut up shall be unclean until the evening. And whoever sleeps in the house shall wash his clothes, and whoever eats in the house shall wash his clothes. But if the priest comes and looks, and if the disease has not spread in the house after the house was plastered, then the priest shall pronounce the house clean, for the disease is healed. And for the cleansing of the house he shall take 2 small birds with cedar wood and scarlet yarn and hyssop, and he shall kill one of the birds in an earthenware vessel over fresh water, and shall take the cedar wood and the hyssop and the scarlet yarn along with the live bird, and dip them in the blood of the bird that was killed, and in the fresh water, and sprinkle the house 7 times. Thus he shall cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, and with the fresh water, and with the live bird, and with cedar wood, and hyssop and scarlet yarn. And he shall let the live bird go out of the city into the open country. So he shall make atonement for the house, and it shall be clean. This is the law of any case of leprous disease, for an itch, for a leprous disease in a garment or in a house, and the swelling, or an eruption, or a spot to show when it is unclean and when it is clean. This is the law of the leprous disease. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, speak to the people of Israel, and say to them, when any man has a discharge from his body, his discharge is unclean. And this is the law of the uncleanness for a discharge, whether his body runs with his discharge, or his body is blocked up by his discharge. It is a uncleanness. Every bed on which the one with the discharge lies shall be unclean, and everything on which he sits shall be unclean. And anyone who touches his bed shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And whoever sits on anything on which the one with the discharge has sat shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And whoever touches the body of the one with the discharge shall wash his clothes, and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And if one with the discharge spits on someone who is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And any saddle on which the one with the discharge rides shall be unclean. And whoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until the evening. And whoever carries such things shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Anyone whom the one with the discharge touches without having rinsed his hands in water shall wash his clothes, bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And an earthenware vessel that the one with the discharge touches shall be broken, and every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. And when the one with the discharge is cleansed of his discharge, then he shall count for himself 7 days for his cleansing, and wash his clothes, and he shall bathe his body in fresh water, and shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take 2 turtle doves, 2 pigeons, and come before the Lord to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall use them, one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord for his discharge. Who wants to do the last one?
I'll do it.
All right.
If a man has an emission of semen, he shall bathe his whole body in water and be unclean until the evening. And every garment and every skin on which the semen comes shall be washed with water and be unclean until the evening. If a man lies with a woman and has an emission of semen, both of them shall bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. When a woman has a discharge, and the discharge in her body is blood, she shall be in her menstrual impurities for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall be unclean until the evening. And everything on which she lies during her menstrual impurity shall be unclean. Everything also on which she sits shall be unclean. And whoever touches her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. And whoever touches anything on which she sits shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. Whether it is the bed or anything on which she sits, when he touches it, it shall be unclean until the evening. And if any man lies with her, and her menstrual impurity comes upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and every bed on which he lies shall be unclean. If a woman has a discharge of blood for many days, not at the time of her menstrual impurity, or if she has a discharge beyond the time of her impurity, all of the days of the discharge she shall continue in uncleanness. As it is in the days of her impurity, she shall be unclean. Every bed on which she lies, all the days of her discharge, shall be to her as the bed of her impurity, and everything on which she sits shall be unclean, as in the uncleanness of her menstrual impurity. And whoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the evening. But if she is cleansed of her discharge, she shall count for herself 7 days, and after that she shall be clean. And on the 8th day she shall take 2 turtle doves or 2 pigeons, and bring them to the priest, to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and the priest shall use one for a sin offering, and the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make atonement for her before the Lord for her unclean discharge. Thus you shall keep the people of Israel separate from their uncleanness, lest they die in their uncleanness by defiling my tabernacle that is in their midst. This is the law for him who has a discharge, and for him who has an emission of semen, becoming unclean thereby Also for her who is unwell with her menstrual impurity, that is, for anyone, male or female, who has a discharge, and for the man who lies with a woman who is unclean.
Okay. That's about all I want to know about discharges.
TMI.
Yeah.
It's too much information.
TMI.
Just as an overall thing, what does all the purification rituals in this compare for what other purification rituals that we've seen?
It's like the purification for the priest.
Yeah, when the priests were purified, the same thing happened to them. They had oil on their ears, their hands, and their toe, and their big toe. So it's real similar purification rites. But if you notice, even the houses had to be had to have a sacrifice to be purified. It's interesting that all these things point to how sanctified God really is. You know, I think when people say, the first thing I'm going to do when I see Jesus is I'm going to say this, or I'm going to go up to him, or I'm going to do this, I don't think they have a clue of who he is.
Yeah.
And that approaching him is not on our terms, it's on his terms. Don't y'all ever think about that?
Yeah.
Well, there's a song that they sing, and I think, oh yeah, you're gonna be flat on your face on the ground with your nose in the dirt.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be bold before the Lord.
Well, I came up this morning. I had listened to Bill Cloud, and he did a talk on this a couple of years ago. But his talk lasted 2 hours, and I decided I don't want to talk that long. Well, this is a double portion, Tazria-Metzora, Leviticus 12 through 15. And it's about purification, shifting the focus from what goes into the body, as the prior portion, as to what comes out of the body. The main principle drawn out is what is inside us eventually becomes visible on the outside, especially under pressure. If you notice, all these things are something that's coming out of something. It's got something in it that's coming out. And Yeshua, Jesus, teaching that defilement comes from the heart and is revealed through our words. Jesus used defilement that comes from the heart is revealed through our words and actions. In Matthew 5:17, don't you understand that whatever goes into the mouth passes into the belly and out of the body? But the things which proceed out of the mouth come out of the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart come evil thoughts, murders, adultery, sexual sins, thefts, false testimony, and blasphemies. These are the things which defile the man, but to eat with unwashed hands does not defile the man. So, what was Jesus talking about? He was talking about, just washing your hands doesn't do anything. It's what we have inside of us that shows we're defiled. And so I want to emphasize the need for a filter of what we feed our minds and hearts, because it will be what we disperse to others. Just as even something beautiful like childbirth produces what Torah calls uncleanness in a ritual sense. God's birthing something, whether in the world, like in Romans 18 through 24, I consider that sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which will be revealed toward us. In other words, the whole point is that everything has consequences. even childbirth, which is something that's pleasant and great, brings a new life into the world, but there's things that have to be dealt with even with childbirth. The question is, things can bring issues up that have to be dealt with. You ever have issues that come up that have to be dealt with? Well, that's what the scripture is talking about here. It says things are happening in our world, and that, things that defile us are more prevalent today than ever before. Why?
Because we ignore the signals.
Well, but we have communication like we have never had before in the history of the world. I mean, it's kind of like Brad Scott. We used to have to seek knowledge. We used to have to seek information. But information is inundating us today. We have it on our phones. We're getting notifications of what's happened, where things are going on. It's tracking us down. Mm-hmm. And people, things that are shown and said in communication today that would have you put in jail 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to really do some bad stuff to get in trouble. Like the guy in Congress that's done all these things, and he finally did something that he finally had to resign here this past week. In previous times, the first offense would have gotten him.
Surprised they didn't promote him.
Yeah, that's what I said when I first read it. So it's the reason they didn't make him their next candidate for president. Applied to an assembly, the warning is that the greatest threat is often not outside opposition, but corruption from within. I mean, how many times do we see ministries where some leader is corrupt? And it finally comes.
It'd be easier to say how many times do we not.
That's true. That's sad, but true. It's like the parable of the wheat and tares. So each person must guard their own heart first. The call is for the mature to bear with weakness of the less mature without endorsing sin. So in Romans 15:1 says, "Now we who are strong ought to bear the weaknesses of the weak and not to please ourselves. Let each one of us please his neighbor for which is good, to be building him up. For even Christ didn't please himself, but as it is written, the reproaches of those who reproached you fell on me." In other words, even Yeshua was in the business of helping those that are weak. And are we all weaker than Christ? On a personal level, pressure can expose both suppressing sins and long-standing patterns rather than excusing them. What do people say? Well, that's just the way I am. No, that's not just the way you are. Everything in life is a decision. We get up every day and say, do I want to go to work, or do I want to, what am I going to do? Everything that we do is a decision. And we have to look at that, and we can't let even people in our congregation get away with things that are just not right. I mean, if you don't have standards, you don't have anything at all. In Hebrews 12, I'm not going to read though. "Therefore, let us also, seeing we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, lay aside every weight and the sin which is so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race that is set before us, looking to Yeshua, the author and perfecter of our faith, for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising its shame, and has sat down at the right hand on the throne of God. For consider him who has endured such contradiction of sinners against him, that you don't grow weary, fainting in your souls. You have not yet resisted to blood, striving against sin, and you have forgotten the chastening of the Lord, nor faint when you are reproved by him. For whom the Lord loves, he chastens, and scourges every son whom he receives. It seems to me that our world has lost its way, and that, the difference between good and evil has been so blurred that kids growing up don't even know what evil is. I know my grandsons say stuff occasionally that it just blows my mind, and I have to tell them, we don't say stuff like that. I don't care where you heard it or who said it, you don't repeat it. And that's
You're going the right way for a smart bottom.
do what?
You're going the right way for a smart bottom.
So, along the idea that judging ourselves can prevent heavier correction later. You ever think about that? Judging yourself? I mean, that runs over me all the time. I mean, my favorite saying is the only reason I open my mouth is to change feet. And what is it that's 1 Corinthians? For we
would think working on a farm, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I know. For if we discern ourselves, we wouldn't be judged. You understand? Discern yourself. What is discern? Realizing the truth. If we realize the truth about ourselves, we wouldn't be judged. But when we are judged, we are punished by the Lord, that we may not be condemned with the world. Now, what was Paul saying there? He said, if you look at yourself seriously, you're going to save yourself a lot of trouble. And what does that mean when it says not be condemned with the world? I mean, it's what Alvin talks about every time. Is we need to confess our sin, make restitution, do what it takes to be the person that God calls us to be. Is that not correct?
And then strive to the point of blood, as we read earlier, to not do it again.
Not do it again. But Zorah is tied to Zerat. And Zerat is what they translated here as leprosy. But Zerat is not leprosy. It's not that disease is a horrible infection. But this is talked about. Zerat means an eruption, an outward of something that is wrong inwardly. The rabbinic view is noted not treated as the only authoritative view. I'm not talking about it's the only thing. But Zerat is connected with the slander of evil speech, like who is the first one recorded of having evil speech? Miriam against Moses.
Mm-hmm. Aaron too.
Yeah.
I guess he was in on it.
Well, I think Miriam was the one that did it, and Aaron just said, "Well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's go call him out on it." I think he just went along. What is gossip and critical speech? How's that described spiritually? Well,
Lashon hara.
yeah, it's Lashon hara, but gossip and evil speech is kind of contagious.
Mm-hmm.
It's like if you got a pack of dogs and one of them is weak and everything, all the other dogs attack it.
Mm-hmm.
And, even the dog that doesn't want to joins in on the fun. Well, that's the way people are. You get to, on that whole criticizing, destructive speech, and it can be a problem. We're warned that jealousy and challenging God's leadership choices, like the Korah, the dynamics, can destroy a community. If you have leadership and you continually criticize or defame or find fault with, you become the problem, not the solution. In other words, there's a way to handle things. That's why the scripture says, if you see your brother sinning, go to him privately and address it. And then if he won't believe you, take another witness with you. Deal with it in a compassionate way. You know, don't go get a group of people. You know, Korah's rebellion was, he got 250 to go with him? And it didn't turn out really good, did it? Well, that's the way a lot of people live their lives, is they go from conflict to conflict. And we can let that happen to us, but I think part of the scripture here is identifying, God's saying, identify the problems and deal with the problems. And, you know, the people that have the problems, the Metzora, what happens to that person until he's restored? He's outside the camp.
Yeah.
He's outside the camp. The practical code of conduct emphasizes unity, humility, truth-telling, righteous handling of anger, and refusing corrupt and critical speech. And that brings me to Ephesians. I, therefore, the prisoner in the Lord, beg you to walk worthy of the calling with which you were called, with all the lowliness and humility, with patience, bearing with one another in love, being eager to keep the unity of the Spirit in the bond of peace. The point is, we're to love each other and to have a relationship with us that reflects what we believe. The final theme is that we can overcome our weaknesses if we band together, if we live together in the way God wants us to. What did Paul have in his flesh? He had a thorn in his flesh, right? What did he say?
Messenger of Satan to too many.
Yeah, by reason of the exceeding greatness of the revelations, that I should not be exalted excessively, there was given me a thorn in the flesh, a messenger of Satan, to torment me, that I would not be exalted excessively. What do you think his thorn in the flesh was? Anybody have any opinions? The old preacher that we used to have at St. Stephen's said he had bad eyesight. You know. I don't think that's what it was.
I had heard that
I've
it
heard
could
all.
have been people in the congregation that were just obnoxious.
Well, I think what it was is that he wanted to deliver salvation to his people, and that God called him to the Gentiles. And he was saying, my thorn is I want to go help my people, but God has called me to something else, and that was his thorn. What do you think?
That would be also be a prideful position if he had to confront Peter.
Yeah. Well, the thing that is
These days there are people that say that he was
what?
not into women.
Hmm?
Not into women.
Mm-hmm. Who knows? His strength is made evident when we acknowledge weakness and submit to refinement. What is refinement? What?
Dusting yourself off after you make the mistake and doing it right next time.
Right. You know, how is metal refined?
By heat.
Heat, by fire. But refinement is something that it cannot be pleasant. We have to.
Loves who he chastens, so if you ain't being chastened.
Yeah, that is true. You know, when my opinion is, you know, you got to be careful when everything's looking good and going well. Something's fixing to happen.
What scripture was that about the thorn in the flesh? I can't remember.
One Paul wrote.
Yeah, 2 Corinthians 12.
Oh, there I am, 2 Corinthians. Yep, it was. I was there. Thorn in the flesh, yeah.
My message, I want to close by urging ongoing vigilance, forgiveness, focus on Yeshua, and a commitment to handle internal pressures in a way that protects unity and supports healing and maturity in our congregation. And I think one of the things that the Tazria-Metzora is bringing out is that things that, evil speech and those things create a separation whether we like it or not. And I think that's something that can overcome people. And I think it's just a good warning to everyone that for the longest time I didn't understand any of this stuff about Lashon Hara, evil speech, and how it affects people and how it affects our relationships. And especially things that we can avoid so easily. And just being nice to one another, not finding fault. And I'm not saying that stuff happens, but sometimes it happens unintentionally. For instance, I'll tell a story on myself. Our building that we have is a condo building. I mean, we own 40% of the building, and another company owns 40%, and then there's two small companies own 10% apiece. So we have a little condo association. And but one of the other big office, they were having trouble with their internet service. So we just took a line down from our internet connection because we had fiber and they didn't. And we just took them up on ours, and they were a catering company, and they gave us food for our service. And so we got $90 worth of food a month, and nobody at the office wanted it, so me and Zoe took it. And so I was getting the food. And I kind of got familiar with them. I was going down there and I was kidding around with them, and I'd go get food every month. So we'd get online and make an order, and I'd go down and pick it up. And one day I went down there, and I became too friendly. I mean, I came in and acted like I owned the place. I was just joking around. I am unconscious, so it says, of me. Anyway, it made them mad, and I didn't even know it. And the lady that owns the place, she came down and told me that I wasn't welcome there anymore, and that they were getting their own connection, and we could go butt a stump.
You could do what?
Go butt a stump. Anyway, that's how unconscious some people are. Me. Is that, and I didn't even know that I had done anything. I mean, I realized what I had done later. I could see how they could be upset about it, but it just goes to show you that you cannot be too careful and take what you think is a way to act, and it's really not the way to act. And it was a big mess up on my part, and I wasn't able to make amends. I'll put it that way. Anyway, we need to be careful in our relationship. It doesn't matter if it's here or if it's out there where we're living our lives, and it can affect you in ways you cannot believe. So, anyway, anybody have anything else they'd like to talk before I get on to Calvin?
Yep.
What's that?
The boys and the girls and the cleansing after having a boy and a girl.
Oh, okay.
So the boy, how many days?
33.
And then another
40 days.
40 days.
Mm-hmm.
The girl is 66, 14, so 80 days.
Mm-hmm.
Together that would be 120. So I think all of these, to include the oil and the blood, are repetitively showing us the process again. 40 Jubilees, the flood, 80 Jubilees, the cross, 120 Jubilees, the resurrection. Over and over again, right? Or Moses left, he was 40. Moses returned,
He was 80.
He was 80, which would have
He died
been
120.
similar to the cross. 120 he died,
Mhm.
and Yehoshua led him into the land. So
Mhm.
over and over and over, and with the cleansings, right? When we get into the two birds, one of them was let go in the open field. That's very similar to atonement, right?
Mhm.
Almost the same. Whenever they're putting the blood on the person that had the Zorah after the cleansing, they put on the blood first and then the oil.
Mhm.
So you can't like have the desire and do anything unless you've been cleansed by the blood.
Mhm.
So I think all of these have way more of the gospel in them than we look.
Mhm.
When we get to Numbers, and if you come into the contact with a dead person, you have to cleanse 2 times, the 3rd day and the 7th day,
Mhm.
which is where you get the 3rd day and the 7th day are the same day.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
of that stuff is just, whenever you start seeing it, to me, it's just mind blowing how you can, the same story over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah. And that's true, is because if we're not looking for it, if you're not going back and saying, well, there is 40, 80, 120, if there's all these patterns that are there, but it's like, there were that Indian guy that came to England 100 years ago, was a great mathematician, and they realized he was a great mathematician, but he didn't have the credentials to be a great mathematician. It didn't matter what he knew, it mattered where he came from. And so they never really accepted him. And then after he died, they found all of the papers that he had written. Okay? Do you know what came out of those papers that he had written? All the mathematical formulas that enables spacecraft to get away from the Earth and get to the moon came out of his paperwork. Okay? But the thing that it is people had to look at it that knew what to look for. Okay? We study the Bible, but a lot of times we don't know what to look for. We're reading it, but we're not seeing it. We don't have eyes to see, ears to hear. We're not searching for that level.
I think the greatest example of that is the feeding of the multitudes.
Mm-hmm.
If people see, oh my gosh, you fed all these people. How many fish were there?
Mm-hmm.
How many loaves of bread were there?
5 and 2.
How many baskets were there? And what were the instructions for those baskets?
Well, there was 12 baskets and nothing was left behind. You know.
And if it weren't important, that's the other part that blows my mind about that. Yeshua himself is saying, how much longer I got to deal with you people? Do you not get it? And it starts asking those questions. What are the baskets?
Mhm. So the thing about it is that if we don't get together and talk about these things, then we don't hear them. And if I don't ask the question, nobody gives the answer, right? But that's the way God's word is. I mean, it's a living, dynamic thing that who knows the things that we have missed because we've been too lazy to search it out. You know, it kind of disturbs me about Calvin, though. You know what Calvin says? It says
Calvin
here.
believed in free will.
And it says here that by the age of 6, most children have seen 1 million murders on television. I find that very disturbing. It means I've been watching all the wrong channels. Hey Dad, how come you live in this house with Mom instead of an apartment with several scantily clad female roommates? Huh? Boy, ask a simple question, get all your television privileges. Well, you know, that's funny, but it's sad because it's the truth.
Yeah.
You know, you remember that This was written back in the day when they had that TV show on Three's Company,
Oh,
where John Ritter was living with the three girls. You know, and it was a popular TV show. And it was just
I forgot all about it.
Anyway, next week is Akri Mo Kedoshim, after the death and holy ones. It's another double portion. Let's say the blessing together. Join me. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave to us the Torah of truth, Yeshua Messiah, the life everlasting, set in our midst. Blessed are you, Lord, giver of the Torah. And in Hebrew, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, Yeshua Meshikeinu, Yehai olam, natan letukeinu, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Haftarah. Great peace have those who love your law. Nothing can make them stumble. In the way of the wicked is like deep darkness. They do not know what makes them stumble. Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction, and those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow and the way is tribulation that leads to life, and those who find it are few. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Paul.
209, that's an all-time early record.
You get a raise, Paul.
Get a raise? Doubling myself?
Gadol Elohai, Shiru ki gadol Elohai, kol echad yireh ki gadol Elohai. adore.